Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a new reaction video for you guys today. Today we're doing something a little different. We haven't done it in a while. Today we're reacting to a video from another content creator named Georgia Doe. I've reacted to some of her stuff in the past. She is a psychotherapist who takes her expertise and breaks down the thought processes of different characters in anime, in video games, and today she is doing James Sutherland and the real reason he went to Silent Hill. Now, if you guys have been keeping an eye on the channel, I just recently completed a playthrough of Silent Hill, and even though this video is a few weeks old, to hear what she really thought about James Sutherland's whole reason for doing what he did, his repressed memories, all that, I think this will be a really, really interesting video, and I really want to check this out. Also, Silent Hill, the Silent Hill series in general, has to do a lot with mental health issues. I mean, James is dealing with grief, Angela is dealing with trauma. I think the only one that's like 100% sane is Laura. Even Eddie was bullied and pushed until the point where he broke. So to hear the professional side of this with a little bit of, you know, the game fan in me, I think this could be a really, really fun reaction. If you guys enjoy this type of reaction, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. But enough from me, let's jump in and check out the video. Yeah, one of my favorite things about her is that every character she tends to cover, she cosplays as something from the series or the character themselves. She's freaking Pyramid Head here, and that is so cool. The dedication that she has.
I can do that.
I love it. I love all of it.
I thought that it would be really fascinating to go into the psychology of why I think James went to Silent Hill in Silent Hill 2, the remake. So everyone put on your psychological hats and let's take a look at James and Silent Hill 2.
All right, so I'm gonna be chiming in obviously with my own opinions. Having just completed it, it's really, really fresh in my mind, and I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. I think I already said that. They did such a good job in the game.
I think that this scene shows a lot of the psychology of what James is going through. That look at himself in the mirror, I think, is much more telling than just looking at yourself in the mirror. To be able to look at yourself in a really honest way can be really scary, especially if you've done things that you have not yet come to terms with. You can also see James is...
Spoiler alert. It's probably going to be spoilers. I probably should have said at the beginning, and we'll talk about it as we go through the video.
shaking and sweating. He's having an anxiety response, which often happens to us when we have to face things that we're not yet ready to be able to face. And when we talk about going into our own inner psychology or even going into the thoughts of possible psychosis, our inner mind can be a wonderful place, or it can be its own manifestation of our own inner hell.
Mary,
I like the way she put that.
Be in this town.
It's a common thing that we do when we're remembering someone or remembering parts of someone is going back to places that we used to be with them or that we have happy memories for them. And in this case, I would put out the theory that this is not an actual place, that James is not actually there, that this is a manifestation of James's inner nightmare so that he can be able to come to terms with the reality of what has happened. And that's an actual thing that can happen, that sometimes things are so horrific that we create our own reality around it to be able to protect, to be able to deflect, so that we can be able to exist within that. The problem is that it ends up becoming its own prison. We are a prison of our own thoughts, and we have an amazing ability to lie to ourselves for the good or for the bad. And sometimes we've done things that are so horrific that our mind protects ourselves from them until we're strong enough to be able to face it.
I do like the way she put that. That the whole entirety of Silent Hill was just, in his own head. Us as the gamers, we know that it is an actual real place because there's other people that have gone there. And once you know the full story of what happened with his wife, again, spoiler warning, his timeline of events was incorrect because of the traumatic actions that he committed. He thought she died 3 years ago of sickness, when in reality she died like a week before the game. But 3 years ago is when she got sick. Fucking Pyramid Head.
James is not as shocked and horrified as I would expect him to be if I saw Pyramid Head with these pieces of dismembered mannequin that they've put together into a monstrosity and having them treated in this despondent way. He's not as horrified as you would expect, unless perhaps this is something that he's been through before, or this is something that he feels unconsciously perhaps that he actually deserves. To go through the punishment of having to experience the way that he feels that he's treated Mary, to be able to see it from an outside source, to actually go through the penance of living through the horror of what he feels he's put Mary through.
That's actually nice because, like that she put that all together, since we know Pyramid Head is really just his manifestation of guilt and his need to punish himself for what he did.
Psychologically, I would say that I think James has created this world in his inner mind to go through the suffering the way that he feels that Mary has, to be able to have to witness and experience watching someone treat other people like mannequins, body parts, chopped up pieces, not of a whole person.
Man, I was so scared of doing during this scene. I thought I was gonna have to fight Pyramid Head. I was like, I'm about to die. Ugh, gross.
And that glitching that Pyramid Head does, I would put out the theory that I believe that it is every time that something different happens, possibly every time James relives this, rethinks of the things that have happened, almost like Pyramid Head is downloading a different script this time, or James is reacting in a different way. Because later when you see the underworld, there's a cut in the same closet that James has been hiding in. And I think that that's very common for our own psychology, that when our brain cycles through thoughts or things that we've happened over and over again, it's in the hopes that we will learn from it, do something different next time. And so often we get plagued. We have these intrusive thoughts that will not stop. And that's usually because we want to learn something from it, to be able to do something different next time. It's our brain going through the trauma in the hopes that we will have a better answer and hopefully a better outcome.
That also plays into one of the big theories of Silent Hill 2, that it's basically James on loop, and that he keeps on going through what he went through in Silent Hill over and over and over again until he finally comes to terms with what he did, and then he's finally able to leave. There's like a big evidence to that theory in the game. Dead bodies that look like James. There's one that's covered up with a cloth, and you could see the clothes are similar to James, so that's been a huge theory for a long time.
Like, don't shoot the helmet. I'm saying, like, if you are trying to protect yourself and the person has a helmet that's like a tank, maybe don't shoot there. Theory that Pyramid Head is there to be able to teach James to have some empathy for the things that he has done. It makes perfect sense that he leaves James alone over and over again, because his job is not to have James end the suffering, but to be able to suffer through it. For James to be able to see it from another perspective, to be able to live through it, in the hopes that he will learn to have more care and thought for the people around him. And that possibly he will keep on going through this cycle until he learns that lesson. And it's kind of interesting because they do go through sensitization sessions to try to help people feel when they don't really understand the cause of their actions. This works for some people to be able to have them feel again, but if you're dealing with someone that does not have any connections to their empathy, someone that would be more on the spectrum of having sociopathy, they just don't feel the same levels of empathy as someone else. Does not mean that they are dangerous or violent or would hurt someone, by the way, but they may not have that same amount of ability to feel. To be able to see it from another perspective can sometimes help those connections connect, and sometimes not.
Mary?
You want to hear her opinions on Maria? Obviously, we know Maria is supposed to be like a sexier version of Mary, and not sick and all that. But so this is going to be interesting.
No. You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria. I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
Maria is also something that James has created, an optimized version of Mary, someone that is alive, vivacious, sexualized, cares about him and wants him, in the hopes that he will care about something, risk something, and also to test his care of, did he actually love Mary? And those are those questions that we can often ask ourselves, especially when we've done something horrible or hurt someone that we believed that we really cared about. And maybe
Peeking a little bit behind the veil again, after completing the game and realizing what James did, his whole thing that he says to Mary is that he killed her because he wanted his life back. And ideally, he would have wanted a life with Mary, with her not being sick. In his mind, the disease took so much from him and her.
idealized is not the right word. Maybe it's just a very different version that shows aspects of Mary that he had lost when she went through her illness.
Oh, I love this part. This is a good part.
Run! Come on, hurry!
And you can see for James, he doesn't go back to get Maria. He goes into the elevator first. There are certain parts of his personality of him taking care of himself before he takes care of those that he loves. Is he yet able to truly risk himself for the love of someone he cares about? The cost of that, the cost of his own flaws in his character.
Nice blur out.
And that dealing with that sense of loss, having someone pulled from you at a cause of your own actions, I think is also really important to James's psychology, to be able to truly feel it. And why would he do that? I think that inside of himself, he feels like he didn't fully understand the cost of his actions when he was in it. Possibly because he was drinking or inebriated or frustrated, and watching someone suffer for a very long time is exceptionally traumatic to those that go through it. And then you end up with the guilt of feeling bad that you are upset of having to go through it because the person who is ill, it's no fault of them. And so because of that, you end up also feeling exceptionally guilty. But it's common and normal to not want to watch someone suffer endlessly or for long periods of time. We end up going through secondary trauma also, and you don't feel just to be able to share your feelings of going through that. And so it causes a lot of inner frustration.
Another thing is in the case of James, and so you see it sometimes with partners of someone who got sick, where it's like they try to be so supportive. They give up their time, they give up a lot of energy, and not everybody can handle it. We are just humans.
And inner guilt and possibly shame.
Maria? Maria! I thought that thing killed you. Are you hurt?
Not at all, silly.
But the thing... It stabbed you. There was blood everywhere.
What do you mean?
It chased us to the elevator and then...
James, what are you talking about?
She was scary here.
And that's why it makes sense that Maria is alive again. That's what James has to go through. This want to be able to protect someone, the relationship with that, the relationship with loss, and Mary at the same time. And so that's another set of proof that this is something that's happening within James's own mind. He has unresolved issues that he feels he deserves to pay a price for in hopes that he will learn something. And we do that. We often replay scripts, replay thoughts in our head in hopes that we can do better. But if we can't accurately see ourselves, then we're not going to make the right changes to be able to actually change who we are, to be able to do different things. You have to do something different and practice it enough to become part of you so that it doesn't happen again and again.
Don't you remember?
Did something happen to you after we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful.
And that mocking of his pain also, it doesn't really fit with who she was before. It's almost like his inner subconscious is going through that animosity of his actions, his own anger and frustration at himself and who he was, because he doesn't truly get it. He doesn't understand what happened just yet.
Part was really hard to watch as a gamer because it was very confusing because obviously she acted very different from the way Maria was acting at the beginning of the game. But then she started talking about things that we hadn't experienced yet. So she was digging into James's own memories, talking about the video that they recorded at the hotel. And I had no idea what that was because obviously I hadn't beat the game yet. And James knew what it was, but he's like, how'd you know about that? So it's like, was that actually Maria, or was that something completely different? Let me know your guys' ideas in the comments. I want to know what you guys thought of that scene.
But it is something that he has some thoughts to, because this is his own inner dialogue, his inner voice trying to make him wake up to be able to see it. And sometimes we'll go through flashes, little parts, little pieces that sprout up of something horrible that's happened to us. It can be, though, really difficult. That's why when you're going through something like this, it is much better to go through it with a professional that is trained in being able to handle it. Because when you go through the boxes of things that you've tried to close away or tried to mask who you are as a person to be something else, one is it's highly ineffective, but two, it will slowly start to creep its head into other areas of your life and make them more difficult to have to deal with. So to be able to open them in ways that you can understand it, understand why you're saying these things, and learn from it so that you can come to peace and be able to move on in a more healthy way.
Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything. But you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
For those people that believe that Maria is an actual person, there is no way that she would know this information. Plus, she was stabbed through the heart. There was no way she would live through it. It's something that only Mary and James knew of. And I think that that is one of the most stark things that shows that Silent Hill, all of this is a manifestation of James's inner turmoil.
How do you know about...
She's half right. It's more like Silent Hill takes all of his anguish and brings it to life. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it does to everybody.
about that? Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So you are Maria.
If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
Doesn't matter who I am. I am here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
Run.
And that want for James to be able to have something tangible when he's lost something. Often when we've gone through loss, we try to grab at other things that are close enough facsimiles of that thing.
Maria.
He suddenly snaps out of being able to feel and becomes despondent. That reminds me a lot of that scene with Pyramid Head when he walks away to be able to just move despondently, almost like he's nullified, like he no longer feels anything for it, like he's starting to have parts that he feels, but he is not yet there. People that can't feel sadness or have a hard time attaching to it, it does not mean that you're dealing with sociopathy or other things. Trauma can create situations where we actually lose a part of our emotional content, or if you were punished for feeling sad or feeling angry, sometimes you actually lose one of your base emotions. And that is a completely different thing, something that you can gain back with time and with training. All of our emotions are there to serve a purpose to us. They're all important. Even the ones that we look at negatively are actually there to keep us safe, to keep us protected, to teach us something, to do something for us. So know that if you're missing an emotion or you can't feel something, it doesn't mean that you don't
I didn't know that.
have any emotional content or that you can't feel empathy as well. The way that everyone deals with trauma is different, and that's okay. But if you were punished every time you feel something, you do want to be able to reclaim that. That's a part of you.
Oh shit, the tape. I really like the what she's chosen to cover. Obviously censoring him suffocating his wife.
And what happens when you come to the realization that you've done something really terrible, something that you can't take back, something that has repercussions to everything around you? That is really difficult to be able to cope with. In a lot of ways, for many people, they might end up blocking, putting defense mechanisms up, believing the lie that it didn't happen, so much so that you've created a completely other reality, a completely different narrative where this didn't happen. This happens a lot. Our brains are really good at protecting ourselves from the things that might hurt us, especially if it might hurt us too much. So much so that you may even start to believe it. But for James, he's trapped in this world until he can fully come to terms with not just the realization of what he did, but I think that the repercussions and the want to come to terms with who he actually is, what he's capable of. And that, for James, I think, is terrifying, but also I think that he feels like he doesn't actually deserve full forgiveness for that.
I want your guys' opinions on this. So hear me out. So James, it obviously depends on the ending you get, but what do you guys think about James as a whole? Do you think that he killed Mary to spare her the pain because she was suffering? Or do you think he really killed her just to get his life back? Do you think he was selfish, or do you think he was doing one last selfless act of love? Because watching your loved one suffer and then having them beg you to end it, obviously killing is a crime, but it's like, what would you do if you were in James's situation? Like, do you feel what he did was truly evil? Let me know in the comments. Ooh.
Even her alone. Leave us both the hell alone.
So when I was streaming this game, I actually had one of my viewers mention something really, really cool that I didn't even think about. So there was always ever one pyramid head until this point in the game, and they gave me a good theory as to why. And yeah, I think it actually makes sense. So Pyramid was here because he needed to be punished, obviously, for killing his wife. At this point, James has now killed two people because he obviously killed his wife and then he killed Eddie. And it's only after the Eddie boss fight where there's two pyramid heads. I thought that was a really, really cool theory. I don't know if that's legit, but it would make a lot of sense. Obviously killing her again.
And each time that James goes through this, he has more emotional content. He feels more each time. Now, we could go about it two ways. One is that hopefully this helps James be able to understand the cost of his actions, to be able to see it as a third person. Or perhaps this is his own want to not have forgiveness, to have this be a punishment for him over and over again because he feels he deserves it. You can let me know your thoughts of either side in the comments.
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore.
I just love how ready he looked.
James finally coming to a realization of their purpose and what the Pyramid Heads were there to teach him, to show him about himself and his actions, and then they extinguished themselves because their purpose was no longer needed. And that actually is something that is very starkly and brutally shown in this, but it is true that we use tools until we no longer need them. And sometimes lessons keep on happening to us. We keep on hitting our head against the wall or sticking our hand back inside of the blender, metaphorically, of course, until we learn that lesson and are able to move on and do better. The problem is that sometimes we're not actually learning these lessons. We're not paying attention to the mistakes that we've made because we're not able to look at things and reflect them back in a really honest way. And that is our job. Our job is to be able to look at our actions.
That's a big deal for a lot of people. Being able to really accept when you messed up, to move forward from that mistake. You hear all the time in big things, little things, people make a lot of excuses for the mistakes that they make. It takes a very mature person and a very self-aware person to be like, I really messed up. I need to fix it. And I need to learn from it.
And what we did wrong and learn from it and do better. But it takes a lot of strength to be able to look at your own flaws, your own mistakes, so that you can be better. But I would say that it is so very worthwhile to be able to do it. And you don't have to do it in a torturous, brutal way either. It can be peaceful and honest. And so I'm going to go through my favorite of the endings because I think it's so poignant. I think that it shows the cycling that James has been through and that he has
I'm going to assume it's the him leaving ending.
Probably gone through this many times or will still have to go through this many times. So it will be the Maria ending. If you're planning on roaming the streets of Silent Hill, better not be left unprepared. Weapons?
Really? The Maria ending?
Mary?
James,
Oh.
I've been waiting.
So just a quick thing. I got the leaving ending. I haven't gone back and gotten all the other endings. That game stresses me out. But so this is actually my first time watching this ending.
It's been so long. Didn't you want to see me?
Yes. More than anything.
And do you see, though, that he says yes, but his head says no, giving a counter thought, which often happens with our micro-expressions. And sometimes our micro-expressions can be a more honest reflection of how we actually feel. Words are easy, actions are hard.
You're all I ever wanted.
Again, a nod no.
That's not true. Is it? You killed me, James.
Oof.
And you can let me know if you think that that's literal or metaphorical. Did James actually kill Mary, or does he feel like his inability to be there killed her?
Yes, I did. I couldn't bear to see you suffer.
I know how you saw me, how you felt. You really hated me.
It's true, I may have had some of those feelings.
Oof.
It was a long 3 years. I was so tired.
I guess I understand.
That goes back to what I was saying about how he said she died 3 years ago, but that's when she got sick. And that was where his mind was basically saying, this is where my wife died. Kind of covering for the fact, protecting himself from what he did.
I know I was a burden.
Definitely not saying that metaphorically or literally what James did was okay, because it isn't. It is a really hard thing to go through endless or long periods of time of suffering. It's really hard on our system. That amount of stress and distress can cause a physical toll on us and want us to have to escape. And I think that there are also some cues that James used alcohol and anger as also defense mechanisms to keep him from having to be there. And we often want to avoid distressful or painful feelings. And sometimes we're doing that just for our own self-protection. But they're maladaptive, and you should find better ways to be able to cope. Support groups, talking it out, finding other methods, not hurting those that you care about or yourself in the process.
What is this?
It's what you've been looking for.
All right, the letter from Mary. He doesn't even read it.
Let's go.
And that's that coldness of James not even opening the letter that show that in this version of the game, James has not yet learned the lesson. He doesn't yet feel full empathy and understanding, that he just puts it away. That is a chapter that he doesn't want to go back to.
Oh, this shit.
Better do something about that cough.
And that scene shows that Maria also, just like Mary, is also sick. And James is going to be going through this process of having to watch someone that he cares about be sick, and what will be the ending of that story. He may have gone through this many times with Maria, or maybe it's another M name of someone, until he learns this lesson. So you can let me know what your thoughts are, but for me, Silent Hill is James's own inner manifestation of that want for penance, for suffering, and possibly redemption. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.
All right, guys, that's it for that video. Final thoughts. Obviously, we know, having played the games, that other people are there. Cool thing to note, that Silent Hill changes based on who's there. So for James, the reason the other world was all decayed and rotten and all that was because of the disease that Mary died of, and obviously his guilt. For Angela, I guess it was always on fire, and for Eddie, it was always frozen. That's why when you see Eddie throughout the game, whenever he talks, you see his breath. So it's really cool the way they implemented their different versions of, you know, their trauma. Honestly, probably for Laura, the place looked normal, I'm assuming. But let me know what you guys thought of Silent Hill 2. Let me know your guys' thoughts on everybody's mental states. And of course, support Georgia Doe. Her content is fantastic. You guys saw at the end, she covers other characters. I actually found her by checking out her covering different Hazbin Hotel characters, and of course her covering Arcane characters, because her videos on Jinx like broke me. I felt so seen and started crying. And now she's doing season 2 now that season 2 is airing, and I'm really excited to check those videos out. So if you guys want to see me react to more of her stuff, let me know down in the comments and I will. She actually commented on some of my videos. It was really nice. But that's it for me, guys. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links will be down below. And But if you guys want to see the original without my pause, without my commentary, link to the original will be down below. Of course, again, show your support. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links are also down below. That's it for me. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.